What do you call a country that violates another country's airspace and territorial waters without provocations, drills in in another country's exclusive economic zone, that buys Russian military equipment in violation of U.S. law, that has more lawyers and journalists in jail than almost any other country, and jails its main political opponent right before elections, a country that seeks by force to block the rights of a EU country to explore its energy deposits off its outer continental shelf, a country that not has joined EU-led sanctions against Russia, but has exported about $800 million worth of goods to Russia, a country that continues airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, including against U.S. partners like the Syrian Democratic Forces, that stops a critical enlargement of NATO, that continues to occupy a EU country with 40,000 troops, and in violation of UN Security Council resolutions seeks to open up an area that has been frozen by the United Nations, that denies religious freedom to the religious leader of millions of citizens of Greek Orthodox faith, that converts a church into a mosque in violation of its UNESCO commitments, and that arrests and jails U.S. Embassy locally employed staff. What do you call such a country?
I think I would call that a challenging ally.
Well, I call the country Turkey. And the reality is I don't believe that's such a country, and I didn't continue, which I could have, deserves to have F-16 sold to it. I mean, I don't know what messages we send in the world that you can do all of those things, and yet you can get U.S. military assistance at the end of the day. So I know the aspiration we have for Turkey, but it is not the Turkey under President Erdogan. And so it seems to me there has to be a roadmap in which it says if you really want this, then you have to, deal with some of these issues. Because if we just give them the F-16s and all of this remains outstanding, well, I don't know what global message we send. In a similar light, in the past year, we've seen Azerbaijan invade Armenia, manufacture a food security crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh with its ongoing blockade, continue rampant repression domestically, including with the unjustified detention of activists like Bakhtiar Hajiyev. In the past 5 years, we've seen Azerbaijan start a war that killed 6,500 people, forced almost 100,000 Karabakh Armenians from their homes. So I am concerned about providing assistance to the Aliyev regime, but it strikes me as particularly egregious that the administration would request $700,000 in international military education and training funds for Azerbaijan. So can you explain to the American people why we would want to provide military education and training to an aggressor state that attacks its neighbors and violates the rights of its citizens?
So, Senator, I know we've had opportunity to discuss this before. There are a few things here. First of all, when it comes to the military assistance, and particularly to the infamous Section 901 waiver that we engage in, look, there's some very practical reasons for that. One is to actually strengthen, as you know, the interoperability between their forces, ours, NATO's. They engage in peacekeeping. They have a long border with Iran that needs defending. But also, to this point, we think there's real benefit to increasing the Western education, maybe orientation of some of their officers. So that's important. But let me just step back for
well,
one
I hope
second.
that Western education isn't what they've learned to do, what they did in blockading these people, starting a conflict, 6,500 dead. That I hope is not Western education.
Just to step back for one second, because I do think this is an important moment and something that I think we should really also pursue the conversation on. I've been very engaged on seeing what we can do to help Armenia and Azerbaijan come to a peace agreement that normalizes the relationship between them, as well as deal with, obviously, the rights and protections for Armenian ethnics in Nagorno-Karabakh, dealing with border delimitation, et cetera. And I think there's an opportunity, I don't want to exaggerate it, but an opportunity actually to bring a peace agreement to fruition. I had Prime Minister Pashinyan and President Aliyev together in Munich at the security conference. I've had the foreign ministers here in Washington. I expect that they'll come back. We've worked on a text, and this is not something that we're imposing on Armenia. We're answering the strong desire expressed by Armenia to see if we can help them reach an agreement, which would end at least, in many ways, 30-plus years of conflict. It's challenging and it's fraught. At the same time, you're exactly right to point out the real problems in the Latin corridor with the ability of people, private citizens, commercial traffic to flow to get what's needed to people in Nagorno-Karabakh. I'm pressing on Azerbaijan, including as recently as this week, to reopen that corridor. So we're working on that. But I do think that there is, without exaggerating it, a moment of opportunity here that would profoundly be in the interests of the people of Armenia, as well as Azerbaijan.
Well, as we are aspiring to that, and that's a worthy aspiration, but I hope that we are committed to making sure that humanitarian assistance reaches the Karabakh Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. And I hope you use your good offices to make that happen.